Good morning, everybody. I just kind of wanted to do a video about the pelvic floor prolapse that I have been experiencing because I felt like I was alone for such a long time, and because of what I was experiencing, it didn't seem to be anything like what anybody else was experiencing. And so I wanted to share my journey, share where I'm at, and hopefully give somebody a little bit of comfort that there are other people going through what they're going through. Anyway, so long story short, as you might know from my previous videos, I had a wonderful free birth. It went amazingly well. I was super duper proud of myself. I had a very healthy baby, and I was very healthy after my birth. And I just kind of didn't really know how to look after myself after a birth because I didn't really want the involvement of the midwives during my birth. After my birth, they did check me over, and they checked my baby, and it turns out that I had a second-degree tear. Oh, if you see lightning flashes, it's because there's a thunderstorm happening right now, and so you might hear that thunder. Anyway, yeah. So basically, they came and checked me over, and they gave me kind of like basic kind of advice, like make sure that you keep yourself clean. I decided not to have any stitches, and my even though I had a second-degree tear, my yoni healed very well. Within about a week, it was fine, or it was knitting back together, and it was fine within 2 weeks. So it really wasn't a problem. But literally about 3 weeks after my birth, I was just carrying on as normal. I had a beautiful baby. I was really happy. I was doing the washing up. I was doing, things like that. I was doing cooking. But what happened was 3 weeks after my birth, which at the time I didn't realise, but that is when your pelvic floor is at its weakest. Basically what happened was I was watching a really funny movie with my husband because my baby was asleep, and I was like, time for us to just kind of chill out. We watched a funny movie called Van Wilder's Party Liaison. It's one of my favourite films, and I hadn't seen it in ages. We watched it, and I laughed so hard that I felt a pop in my pelvic floor. It didn't hurt or anything, I just felt a pop. And I instantly felt the need to wee, and then I was like, oh, and then that sensation went away again. And I was like, well, that was kind of weird. I didn't really know what to think about it. Anyway, I went to bed and just didn't really think about it. And then the next day, as I was having a shower, I kind of just self-examined, put my fingers down there. As you do after you've had a baby, at some point, you kind of get brave enough to just go, okay, I'm going to have a little feel around because you just want to see how it feels. And I felt a bulge, which really, really freaked me out. I went to the doctors the next day, and they examined me lying down. And they said, you're absolutely fine. It's only been a couple of weeks after you've given birth. Don't worry about it. There's nothing to worry about. And I was like, oh, okay. Because I was looking online and people were saying things about prolapse. And I was like, oh, But the doctor said I'm fine, So I was like, I don't have anything to worry about. And I kind of carried on as normal. Then, another sort of like month maybe passed. And I was still feeling this bulge. And I was like, this is really weird. And I went back to the doctor and I said, look, can I please, get a second opinion? Because I really feel like there's something going on here and it's not going away. And they set me up with a pelvic floor physio, like a specialist at the hospital. And I went there, and again, the same thing happened. They got me to lay down. And in laying down, they examined me with their fingers and said there was absolutely nothing wrong with me. And they said because I was still breastfeeding, I probably had relaxin going through my body, and that meant that everything was like a little bit more looser, and my muscles hadn't toned up yet, and not to worry about it. So I just went about my business thinking that everything was fine, and it wasn't. I still had pelvic floor prolapse. I was feeling very uncomfortable down there. I was feeling like I didn't really want to be intimate with my husband because I felt like I wasn't. First of all, I felt some kind of shame because I felt like I couldn't tell people about it because nobody I knew was experiencing it. A lot of people that I spoke to, like other mum friends, were saying that they experienced incontinence, which is obviously where you feel a desire to go for a wee and then sometimes you wet yourself. I had full control over my bladder, but all I had was this bulge, which I could feel, especially on days when I had been standing up for long periods, and I found it very uncomfortable, and it made me feel like something was wrong with me, something was happening that I didn't understand, and it was scary to me. I didn't even know that could happen. I didn't realise that your organs could slip down into your vagina. I didn't know that, it was scary. And I went into a bit of a depression, to be honest, where I felt like I couldn't talk to anybody. And every time I did bring up the subject, and I was like, is anybody else experiencing this? They were always like, no, I've never had that. And they were all kind of like, almost like, gobsmacked, which made me feel even worse, because then that made me feel like not only was I not experiencing what everyone else was experiencing, but everybody else could not imagine even having what I had, and even after one baby. I also had this kind of pride thing that because I'd had a free birth and everything went so well, I almost felt like I couldn't really say that, my aftercare didn't go very well, because I thought people would point the finger and blame and say, well, you've done it wrong, because in all honesty, I feel like I didn't. I feel like my free birth went really well. But what did go wrong was that I didn't know about aftercare. And that was the one thing that I was lacking, and that's the one thing that I regret, and that I would definitely look into afterwards. But then again, laughing, it's something so uncontrollable. It's like, you can brace yourself for a cough, but you can't brace yourself for a laugh. It's really hard to hold your muscles when you're laughing. Anyway, long story short, it took me literally 4 whole years to get the help that I really needed, and a lot of depression along the way, and a lot of anxiety. My symptoms weren't going away, but I finally went to a pelvic floor specialist. It was a great day when she finally examined me standing up and lying down and said, yes, I can see what you're talking about, and yes, you do have a prolapse, and it is a stage 2. And she said, but the good news is that it's not this, you can reverse it with exercises. You can make yourself feel more comfortable, and if you choose to, you can have another baby, because I was worried that it was going to stop me having another baby. But she said no. She said you can actually have another baby. She said you might want to involve the midwives a bit more during your pregnancy, just in case your prolapse gets worse, and then you can obviously then have some support. They might offer you some other options. I mean, I don't like the sound of that. Obviously, I like the idea of doing a free birth. I like the idea of being natural. But equally, at the end of the day, as long as I have the right, person, midwife looking after me, I will do what's right for me and my baby, and for my family. I would not be headstrong, so headstrong that, I would refuse help, because that to me is a bit silly, really. I think just do what's in your heart. If it's in your heart to go and get a hospital birth, or have a midwife, or or have a free birth, do what's in your heart. Do what you know to be right. Don't do what anybody else tells you to do. Put your pride on the shelf, and that's the way that I am. My first birth was a free birth, and I'm really glad I did it. It was the perfect birth for me. My second birth might be completely different. So I am willing to adapt and change depending on my needs and the needs of my baby. Obviously, still want to go the most natural route that I can. For example, if I have a hospital birth, I'd like to do it without any painkillers and drugs and things like that. But I might need the expertise of a midwife who might be able to help me, So anyway, I have been doing the exercises that the pelvic floor specialist gave me, and it's been about 2 months, and I can honestly say that my yoni is healing beautifully. I don't feel that heaviness and that lowness anymore, and I can actually feel the muscles around my yoni have actually built up enough to give me more support. And I guess I would say about halfway through my journey. She did say about 3 months of exercises, and I should be literally back to normal. And then I can move forward with my plans on having another baby. So I just want you to know that, you know, if you are experiencing this, you are not alone. I'm sending you so much love. If anybody wants to contact me, you are so more than welcome. I know what a lonely place it is when you think that you're the only person experiencing these problems. So, sending you lots and lots of love today. Bye.